The sun was warm that afternoon, warm enough to make the metal school benches sting against bare skin, warm enough to make the grass smell sweet and alive. Madison sat on the ferns behind the cafeteria, her usual quiet spot, where the noise of the school faded into something distant and harmless. Lunch was over, and the students had poured out in clusters of gossip, perfumes, laughter, and cruelty. But here, hidden behind the tall shrubs, she could breathe. Madison wasn't the type to hide because she was afraid. She hid because she didn't want her peace interrupted. She had lived through too much. Mockery, whispers, the silent rejection of people who never gave her a chance. Yet she always carried herself with confidence, with a grace they couldn't understand. Her plus-sized body was hers, and she walked with a pride that irritated her enemies more than her existence ever did. She had just unwrapped a piece of chocolate when something fluttered in the air above her. A petal, then another, then dozens of roses rained from the sky. Red, fresh, soft, falling on her hair, her shoulders, her lap. One landed perfectly in her hand as if placed there by fate itself. She froze. Her breath caught. For the first time in years she felt something bloom inside her chest. Something warm, soft, almost unreal. A feeling she had never been given permission to feel. Was someone admiring her? Was she finally seen? She brought the rose closer to her face, letting its scent brush the tip of her nose. It made her heart skip a tiny, trembling beat. She had imagined moments like this in the privacy of her mind, moments where someone chose her, Madison, just because she was worth choosing. But then the world shattered. A chorus of laughter erupted behind her. She jerked, startled, dropping the rose from her hand. The students surrounded her, boys, girls, all with smirks carved across their faces like masks from a cruel play. "You really expect to be loved?" One of them spat the words with a disgusted scoff. "You are disgusting," another girl said, curling her lip. "Only a dumb dick like you would even hope someone looked at you." The laughter exploded like fireworks. Sharp, mocking, ugly. Madison felt her throat tighten, but she didn't cry. She had trained herself too well. She lifted her chin, her face calm, emotion hidden deep behind a shield she built long ago. She wasn't ashamed of her body, but she was tired of being target practice for empty souls. And then, silence. A still, heavy silence that made even the cruel ones swallow. Julia had arrived. Perfect, polished, porcelain-skinned Julia. Julia who came from money older than the school itself. Julia whose clothes were luxury, whose hair never frizzed, whose voice could command a room. Julia, the one every girl worshipped, every boy desired, and every teacher adored. And she was the one who had thrown the roses. Not out of kindness, but out of boredom. Out of entitlement. Out of spite. The roses weren't meant for Madison at all. They were meant for Julia. Because Henry, a quiet, gentle boy, soft-spoken, observant, the one with honey eyes and a heart too big for his own chest, had bought them for her. It was Valentine's week in school, the day students exchanged gifts. And Julia had tossed Henry's roses out the classroom window like trash. They had simply landed on Madison instead. Madison stared at Julia, then at the rose still lying near her foot. Henry was watching from a distance. Julia pretended she didn't know. The students waited for drama. Madison simply stood, dusted her skirt, and walked away without a single word. Henry humiliated. Julia smug. Two strangers walked past each other, both confused by life, both wondering why trying wasn't enough. And as Madison walked toward the school gate, she whispered under her breath, "If you dress well, you're doing too much. If you dress casual, you're poor. If you're kind, you're a fool. So what exactly do they want from me?" No answer came, only the sound of petals crushing under her shoes. The hallway smelled of bleach and expensive perfume, an odd mix that always made Madison feel out of place, like she didn't belong to either world. She kept her gaze low as she walked back into the building, her steps steady but her heart strangely unsteady, still carrying the sting of the moment under the ferns. The laughter replayed in her head like a cruel recording she couldn't turn off. A rose. Just one rose in her hand had made her heart flutter, and they destroyed it. Inside, the noise of the school swelled around her again. The chatter, the slams of lockers, the shrill voices of girls comparing outfits. All of it blended into one loud reminder that she didn't fit any category they approved of. Too big, too quiet, too invisible until someone needed entertainment. She exhaled deeply. They weren't going to break her. Not today. Not ever. But even she couldn't deny the quiet ache beneath her ribs. As she walked, whispers followed her like shadows. There she is. Madison the whale. Did you see her face when the rose fell? She actually thought someone liked her. How pathetic. Madison pretended she didn't hear any of it. Her expression stayed neutral, calm, unreadable. It was an art she had mastered. The art of being unshakable in a world determined to shake her. But behind her composed exterior, her fingers curled slightly, digging into her palm. Not from weakness. From restraint. He turned the corner. And stopped. Henry stood at the end of the hallway, leaning against a locker as if he was waiting for someone. His eyes, soft brown framed behind thin glasses, found her immediately. And the moment they met hers, something in his expression shifted. Regret? Worry? Or something else she didn't dare imagine. He pushed off the locker and walked toward her with hesitant steps, almost unsure if he had the right to approach. Madison, he said quietly. His voice was low, gentle. The kind of voice people ignored because it didn't demand attention. But she heard him clearly. She didn't stop walking, but she slowed. He swallowed. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For what happened. It shouldn't have happened. Madison blinked, her steps coming to a pause. Why are you apologizing? She asked softly. You didn't do anything. Henry's jaw tightened. I gave Julia those roses. But there was. Madison looked away, embarrassed not because of what happened, but because she suddenly felt exposed. Her moment of hope, of foolishness, laid bare in front of the one person involved. It's fine, she said. People throw things away all the time. That's not what I meant, he said quickly. She shouldn't have. His voice cracked a little as if anger and shame were tangled inside him. She shouldn't have done that. Not to you. Madison's lips curved, not in a smile but in something sadder, softer. I'm used to it, Henry. He shook his head. You shouldn't be. Their eyes held for a long moment, long enough for Madison to realize something unsettling. Henry wasn't looking at her the way other boys did. He wasn't mocking her. He wasn't disgusted. He wasn't uncomfortable. He was seeing her. Really seeing her. It made her chest throb with a strange, unfamiliar warmth. But before she could say anything, a group of boys passed by, bumping into Henry just enough to make him stagger. Watch it, lover boy, one of them sneered. Didn't know you liked cows. The boys burst into laughter as they walked away. Henry's cheeks flushed red, part humiliation, part anger, part something else entirely. Madison exhaled slowly, her voice steady. You don't have to defend me, she murmured. It'll only make things worse for you. Henry looked at her then, really looked as if searching for something beneath her words. I don't care, he whispered. The bell rang. Students scattered. The moment broke. Madison turned away and Henry watched her until she disappeared into the crowd. When school ended, the sky was already turning a dusty shade of orange. Madison walked home alone, the weight of the day pressing on her shoulders like a backpack full of stones. Her home, a fading brown townhouse on the corner, stood quietly as if trying not to be noticed. She entered hoping, praying for peace. Instead, chaos greeted her. Her stepmother's voice was sharp and impatient. Her step-siblings Daisy and Hazel chased each other through the living room, yelling. The youngest one, she always called them the demons in her mind, was throwing crayons across the floor. Her father wasn't even in sight. He never was. No one noticed Madison enter. No one cared. She walked straight to her tiny bedroom, shut the door, and finally let the mask fall. She sat on the edge of the bed, lowered her head and whispered, Everybody hates me. I didn't ask for this body, or this life. So what is my crime? The words trembled out on their own. She closed her eyes, imagining her mother's embrace, the only place she had ever felt loved, safe, wanted. Her mother's memory was the only reason she hadn't collapsed under the weight of everything. The tears came softly, quietly, carrying the pain she refused to show the world. And eventually, exhaustion carried her into sleep. Morning came too fast. Madison woke to the sound of footsteps, small, loud, running footsteps. Her step-siblings racing through the hallway like a stampede of tiny animals. Someone banged on her door. Someone else laughed. A baby shrieked. Someone hit something. Something broke. No one cared. Same chaos. Same noise. Same life. She sat up slowly, rubbing her eyes, her body heavy with the kind of tiredness that sleep never cured. For a brief second, she wondered if yesterday had been a dream. The roses, the laughter, Henry's voice in the hallway. But the ache in her chest reminded her it was all painfully real. She dressed in her usual style, simple, clean, neat. She always made sure she looked good regardless of what people whispered. Her mother used to say, "If they are going to stare, give them something beautiful to look at." Madison smiled faintly at the memory. She left her room quietly, hoping to get to school early enough to avoid the morning crowd. When she stepped outside, the cold air kissed her cheeks. Students were already gathering in small groups, chatting, mocking, laughing. She walked past them with her chin lifted, refusing to shrink. But the stares followed her. Even silence could be cruel. And then, Madison. Her heart froze. Henry stood by the school gate, shifting nervously from one foot to another, clutching his backpack strap like it was a shield. His hair was messy today, as if he'd rushed out of the house. His glasses were slightly crooked, and he looked like he had waited for her. She blinked, unsure. "Henry, why are you standing outside?" He swallowed hard. "I didn't want you to walk in alone today." Madison's breath caught. No one had ever, not once in her entire life, considered something like that for her. He tried to play it off. "You don't have to do that." "I know," he said gently. "But I want to." Her stomach fluttered with something unfamiliar. Hope? Warmth? Confusion? He walked beside her. For once, she wasn't walking into school alone. But the moment they stepped inside the hallway, whispers exploded instantly. Why is Henry with her? Is he blind? You. What a downgrade. He must be desperate. Henry tightened his jaw, pretending he didn't hear them. Madison kept her expression neutral, but her chest tightened with every word. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "You shouldn't walk with me. They'll start on you again." "I told you," Henry said, his voice steady now. "I don't care what they say." Madison stared at him in disbelief. How could someone like him exist in a school like this? He wasn't popular. He wasn't rich. He wasn't loud. But he was kind, quietly, genuinely kind. They reached her locker. Henry hesitated, shifting awkwardly. Can I ask you something?" Madison raised an eyebrow. "What?" He scratched the back of his neck nervously. "Do you like roses?" She blinked. The question hit her like a strange echo of yesterday, like a doorway to something she wasn't ready to name. She whispered, looking down. "I like them. I just don't like when they hit me in the face." Henry laughed softly, really laughed, and the sound made her stomach twist pleasantly. "Well," he said, "if I gave you roses, I wouldn't throw them from a window." She froze. Henry froze. They both went stiff at the same time, realizing what he just said. He coughed, flustered. Not that I'm giving you roses, not like now. Well, unless you want them, but I didn't mean." She laughed. For the first time in a long time, she really laughed. "Relax, Henry," she said softly. "I know what you meant." He smiled, embarrassed but relieved. But then, a thunderous voice shattered the moment. "Henry!" Both of them turned. Julia stood across the hallway, flawless as always, her lips painted in perfect gloss, her expression sharp and irritated. Students around her straightened up instantly. Her presence demanded attention like a queen entering her court. "Why are you talking to her?" Julia barked. She didn't even say Madison's name. Just her, like Madison was a stain. Henry stiffened but didn't move. Didn't walk away. Didn't shrink. For the first time ever. Henry didn't obey Julia. Julia's eyes narrowed, voice laced with venom. "Henry, I said come here." Henry's jaw tightened. "No." Gasps filled the hallway. Julia's face darkened, disbelief flashing across her perfect features. "Excuse me." "I said no," Henry repeated louder now. "You can't throw things at people and expect everyone to bow to you." Julia scoffed, a cruel, condescending sound. "Are you defending her?" Madison swallowed hard, heart racing. Henry stepped slightly in front of her. "Yes," he said. "I am." Silence. Pure, stunned silence. Julia stared at him like he had personally betrayed the laws of nature. Then her smile returned, slow, cold, dangerous. "Henry, you're going to regret this." She turned sharply, her heels clicking in harsh rhythm as she stormed away, her followers scrambling behind her. Henry exhaled shakily. Madison stared at him. "Henry," she whispered, "you didn't have to do that. She's going to come after you." "I don't care," he said again, this time with a steadiness she hadn't heard before. "No one deserves to treat you like that." Her chest tightened painfully. Not from hurt. From something she wasn't ready to name. "Thank you," she whispered. He smiled softly. "Anytime." For the first time since she started that school, Madison didn't feel invisible. For the first time since her mother died, she didn't feel alone. And for the first time in her entire life, someone chose her. The rest of the school day unfolded like a slow, heavy storm. Not loud, not sudden, but present in every hallway Madison stepped through. Whispers trailed behind her, sharp and poisonous, yet she walked with the same straight posture, the same deliberate calmness she had learned to wear like armor. But underneath that armor, something new throbbed quietly, something she didn't dare touch yet. Henry kept his distance after the confrontation with Julia. Not out of shame, not out of regret, but out of respect. He moved just close enough to be near her without suffocating her. He was watchful in the way only someone who cared too deeply would be. Madison noticed it every time her eyes met his from across a classroom or down the hall. He didn't stare out of pity nor out of curiosity. He was simply present, silently grounding her in ways he didn't even understand. Julia spent the day in quiet fury. Her presence was colder than usual, her posture rigid, her expressions sharp and calculated. The school reacted to her mood like it always did, compliant, fearful, obedient. But beneath her perfection, there was a simmering tension building inside her, a tension only a wounded ego could produce. Madison sensed it every time Julia walked past with her chin slightly higher, her eyes refusing to acknowledge anything outside her orbit. But the school noticed something else as well. Henry wasn't orbiting Julia anymore. During lunch, Madison chose her usual isolated corner outside. For once, the sun felt less cruel, less exposing. She ate her food slowly, savoring the stillness, until she realized she wasn't alone. Henry sat at a distance, not too far to seem uninterested, not too close to embarrass her. He ate his lunch quietly, occasionally glancing in her direction, not demanding anything from her. His presence was gentle, steady, and unexpectedly comforting. Madison didn't approach him. He didn't need to. His presence said enough without a single word. And he seemed to understand her silence perfectly. After school, Madison walked home with her bag pulling heavily against her shoulder. The noise from the house reached her before she even touched the door. The chaos was always waiting, always ready to consume whatever pieces of peace she had gathered through the day. Her stepmother paced the living room with sharp movements, shouting commands at the children, the television screaming in the background. No one noticed Madison slip in. No one ever did. Her room remained the only sanctuary, a small, imperfect space, but hers alone. She dropped her bag to the floor and sank onto the bed, letting the exhaustion ripple through her body like a slow wave. She stared at the ceiling, replaying the moments of the day. The humiliation, the tension, the stares. But among the wounds, there was one thread of softness woven through everything. Henry. His posture standing in front of her. His decision not to leave her side. His quiet defiance of the school's queen. His protective presence that lingered even after he walked away. Madison didn't know what it meant, but she felt it settle deep inside her chest, warm and fragile. Something she feared touching yet couldn't ignore. For the first time in a very long time, she didn't feel entirely small. And Henry, wherever he was, likely sat in his room that evening replaying the same moments. The way her eyes softened for a second. The way she looked down as though she didn't believe she deserved kindness. The way she walked through the world alone but not broken. Henry felt something shift inside him too, quiet, gentle but undeniable. Two hearts carrying their own storms. Two hearts not yet speaking. Two hearts beginning to move in the same direction. And somewhere far away in her pristine bedroom, Julia stared at her mirror with a different kind of storm rising, one born not of pain but of jealousy and rage. Madison didn't know it yet. Henry didn't know it yet. But their connection, silent, fragile, forming, had just made them a target. Sport Day carried the kind of loud excitement that made the entire school feel like a festival. Students ran around in colorful jerseys, music blasted from cheap speakers, and teachers pretended to be in control when everyone knew they weren't. Madison walked onto the field quietly, her steps steady, her face calm, her silver necklace resting against her chest like a promise she never broke. She wore her usual pair of shoes, simple, clean, dependable. But the moment she stepped onto the track, someone noticed. A girl pointed at her feet and whispered loudly enough for half the field to hear. "Is she wearing the same shoes as Julia?" Another voice joined, sharper. "Oh no, Julia's not going to like that." The whispers spread like wildfire, crawling quickly through the crowd until they reached the person they feared the most. Julia. She stood with her friends at the center of attention. Expensive sneakers, perfect hair, a face carved in superiority. Her eyes moved from Madison's face to her shoes, and then the anger hit her like lightning. She stepped forward, and instantly the crowd parted for her like royalty passing through. Madison kept her eyes forward, trying to push away the embarrassment rising inside her. She could feel the air tightening, waiting. Julia stopped an inch from her. Her voice came out sharp enough to cut skin. "Take those off." Madison blinked. "Why?" Julia scoffed, disbelief dripping from her tone. "Because I don't wear the same thing as trash." A few gasps followed, along with giggles from students who loved cruelty more than oxygen. Madison swallowed hard, fighting the sting behind her eyes. But she didn't move. She didn't bend. Julia's nostrils flared. "I said take them off, pig." She reached out, ready to grab Madison's shoe, ready to humiliate her in front of the entire school. But before Julia's fingers could touch her, Madison caught her wrist. Firm, steady, taking. The silence was instant. Julia's eyes widened. "Let go of me." Madison held her firm and finally spoke, her voice low, steady, unbreakable. "Don't raise your hand at me again." Julia tried to pull back. "Who do you think you are? Let go." But Madison didn't let go. She held her ground, her voice rising just enough. "If you try me again, you will regret it." The crowd froze, every student suddenly too afraid to breathe. Julia twisted, trying to break free, but her own force betrayed her. Her hand bent awkwardly, twisting under Madison's grip. The skin reddened instantly. "Ah!" Julia screamed, stumbling back as her bracelet dug into her wrist, drawing a thin line of blood. Students panicked, yelling for teachers. "Her hand, look. She's bleeding. Take her to the clinic." Julia clutched her wrist, tears streaming down her face, not just from pain but from humiliation. She sobbed loudly as the clinic staff lifted her. She broke my hand." Teachers rushed up to Madison, shock in their eyes. "Madison, what happened?" Madison stood still, breathing deeply, her voice calm. "She told me to take off my shoes, because they look like hers." Some students lowered their heads, ashamed they had ever laughed. Others stared in disbelief at the girl they thought would always be quiet. Madison looked down for a moment, touching her mother's necklace with steady fingers. The pendant felt warm, like it was proud of her. For once, she had protected herself, and the entire school saw it. Madison and Henry walked side by side, leaving the school grounds. The late afternoon sun stretched long shadows across the gate, and the wind tugged at her hair. Henry's presence was a quiet reassurance, his calm demeanor grounding her after the chaos of Sport Day. As they reached the edge of the gate, Henry stopped briefly. "Text me when you get home," he said softly. Madison nodded. "Okay." Without a word, Henry turned and walked back toward the school, leaving Madison alone for only a few steps. That was all the time the men needed. A sleek black BMW waited, its engine humming quietly, blending into the background of traffic. Madison didn't notice the tinted windows or the black-suited figures slipping out of the car. But the moment she took a step forward, one of them approached swiftly, gloved hands holding a gun aimed at her waist. Madison froze. Every muscle in her body stiffened. Her chest tightened. Sweat prickled her skin. She knew instantly that she couldn't scream, not a sound, not a breath. The man gestured toward the car with cold precision. Madison hesitated for a heartbeat, then obeyed, her mind calculating every wrong move could be fatal. She climbed into the waiting BMW, the door slamming shut behind her. a handkerchief pressed firmly over her nose and mouth. Darkness enveloped her, and her body surrendered immediately to unconsciousness. When she woke, she was tied to a chair, her mouth taped. Panic clawed at her, but she forced herself to remain conscious. The room was cold, damp, and suffocating. She struggled against the ropes, desperate for freedom, but they held fast. Her eyes adjusted to the dim light, and she realized with horror that her chair was positioned in a shallow pool of water. The liquid lapped against her body, sometimes brushing her nose. Her chest tightened as tears ran down her face. No one was coming. No one would come. She lifted herself slightly, stretching against the water to keep her face above the surface. Every muscle burned from the effort, but she refused to let herself drown. Every small movement, every inch of height she managed to gain, was a battle against the fear threatening to consume her. Hours bled into days. No food. No water. No comfort. The men returned intermittently, masked and silent, pushing her, testing her, attempting to break her resolve. But Madison fought. She clung to her necklace, pressing it against her chest, letting it remind her of her mother's love, her own inner strength. On the second day, the masked men returned for the final time. They untied her roughly, slipping a mask over her face to block her vision, and carried her out. Madison obeyed silently, exhausted but determined. The BMW rolled to the school gate, and they dropped her off exactly where they had taken her. The men vanished before she could even react, leaving her drenched, trembling, and alone. Henry had no idea. He had already gone his own way, unaware of the danger Madison had walked into in his absence. Madison touched her necklace, shivering. Despite everything, she had survived. She had fought. She had endured. And somehow, against impossible odds, she had made it back, alive. The moment Madison's feet touched the ground where the BMW had dropped her, something inside her broke and healed at the same time. She smiled. A real smile. A fragile, trembling smile, because she was alive. Then just as quickly the smile faded. Her chest tightened and tears rose uncontrollably. They spilled down her cheeks, silent and painful, as if her heart was crying from a place no one could see. She thanked God in her mind over and over. Thank you that I'm alive. Thank you that I made it out. Thank you, because no one else would ever check on me. No one knew she was gone. No one had called. No one had looked. The loneliness wrapped around her like a second skin. She walked home slowly, feeling each step as if it belonged to someone else. When she pushed the door open, the house was loud, normal, uncaring, just the same way she left it. No one noticed the bruises, the exhaustion, the trauma written across her face. She climbed the stairs quietly and slipped into her room. But she couldn't face herself in the mirror. She couldn't face the room. She couldn't face her own shadow. So she walked into the bathroom, shut the door, and curled her shaking body inside the bathtub sink, pulling her legs to her chest. Water. She went back to the only place that kept her alive. The place where she learned to fight for breath. She hugged her knees, breathing slowly, deeply, trying to push the fear out. Trying to exist. Trying to reset her mind. For 2 whole days she didn't eat. She didn't drink. She didn't step out of the bathroom. She stayed indoors, wrapped in silence, wrapped in fear, wrapped in the thought. Is it really a crime not having a mother? Her fingers drifted to her necklace. The necklace she had never removed since the day her mother died. It was the last gift, the last warmth, the last memory of someone who saw her fully. She held it tightly, pressing it against her skin as if it still carried her mother's touch. She played the song she used to sing with her mother. The same soft melody. The same lyrics she had known since she was 6. The same song her mother's voice used to make feel safe. As the music filled her room, Madison wondered how she survived everything she had faced at 12 years old. And how she was still living now. Still breathing. Still fighting. Still alone. The next morning, Madison woke with aching limbs and a burning throat, but she gathered herself and forced her body into her school clothes. She refused to let fear win another day. The moment she stepped onto the school compound, a ripple went through the air. Because Henry saw her. He had been looking at the gate every single minute since the day she disappeared. Checking, waiting, hoping. And when he finally saw her silhouette step through the glass doors, he screamed. A loud, uncontrollable, relieved scream that surprised even him. Henry didn't care who was watching. He didn't care what anyone thought. He ran. Fast. Straight to her. His bag dropped on the floor as if his body forgot he was holding it. He reached her and pulled her into the tightest hug, his arms wrapping around her like he had been waiting his whole life to do it. "Madison," he breathed out, voice cracking. But he didn't finish. He didn't need to. She stood still, frozen, shocked by the warmth she wasn't used to. And someone else saw. Julia. Her steps slowed. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes narrowed. Something sharp and dark stabbed into her chest. Jealousy. Not love, she didn't understand love. But envy. Possession. Territorial rage. How dare Madison receive attention? How dare Henry care? How dare anyone look at her? Julia turned away slowly, a dangerous spark building inside her. Something told her this was only the beginning. Madison's eyes caught Julia as she strode past the school hallway, her presence sharp, deliberate, and dismissive. It wasn't fear like the one felt in front of bullies or strangers. No, this was a different fear. The kind that comes from knowing someone wouldn't care about the consequences of their actions. What if I had died? Madison thought, her chest tightening at the thought. Henry, noticing her sudden pause and the shadow of worry crossing her face, gently tapped her shoulder. "Hey, you okay?" he asked softly. Madison took a deep breath, adjusting herself and standing straighter. Henry's observant eyes didn't miss the subtle tremor in her hands, the slight tension in her shoulders, or the flicker of fear still lingering in her eyes. After school they walked together slowly. Henry finally asked, his voice low but firm. "Madison, what's the matter? Tell me." Her defenses broke and tears fell freely as she recounted everything. The kidnapping, the days in the water, the fear of death, and the absence of anyone to care for her. She told him how it felt to fight for survival alone, how even her own family had never checked on her. Henry listened quietly, his expression shadowed with sadness. When she finished, he stayed silent for a moment, letting the weight of her words settle between them. Then he made a decision. "You're coming with me this weekend," he said with quiet determination. Madison's eyes widened slightly. She hadn't expected this. Why would he want to take her away after everything? The weekend arrived and Madison realized something she hadn't seen before. Henry, the boy who had seemed quiet, simple, and unassuming, was not what he appeared to be. He was the son of a billionaire born into a life of power, influence, and wealth. His family home was more luxurious than anything Madison had imagined. His mother personally ordered the finest roses from an exclusive, expensive florist for Julia, making her feel loved and welcomed in ways Madison could scarcely comprehend. She saw Henry's family, their affection for him, their wealth, their expectations, but also something deeper. The fact that Henry's family cared about the people he loved. They were influential, yes, but also protective, generous, and intentional. And in that moment, Madison realized something vital. Her worth was not measured by the cruelty of others. It was not measured by what she lacked or by the way Julia had treated her. She understood for the first time that the right people, those who truly mattered, would love and cherish her. Her survival, her resilience, her strength, they all had value. And when the right people recognized that, she would be treasured. For the first time in a long while, Madison smiled, not a fragile smile, not a fearful one, but a confident, quiet smile. She finally saw herself as worthy. And she knew that no one, not Julia, not her stepmother, not anyone who had tried to break her, could take that away. Julia couldn't bear it. The closeness between Madison and Henry gnawed at her. Not for love, but for the sheer fact that she despised seeing them together. Every laugh, every look, every shared silence between them felt like salt in a wound she couldn't reach. Meanwhile, Madison had no reason to stay home idle. She usually explored, visiting new places, learning new things, improving her style, expanding her mind. Thoughts of Henry lingered in her mind constantly. She marveled at how coded and careful he seemed, despite the obvious wealth and influence that surrounded him. One fateful morning, the world shifted again. A phone call shattered her quiet routine. "Your father, he's at the hospital," the voice on the line said. Madison froze. Her heart clenched. How serious is this? He wondered. She grabbed her bag and rushed to the hospital, her mind racing with memories of her own pain, of the terror she had faced just days before. When she arrived, her father's condition was far worse than she had imagined. Machines beeped, monitors flashed, and the weak rise and fall of his chest stabbed at her heart. Madison felt a pang of helplessness, imagining the kind of pain he must be enduring, and how it mirrored the fear and despair she herself had felt during the kidnapping. Hours later, she noticed something strange. Her step-siblings, Daisy, Hazel, and Demons, and even her stepmother suddenly acted nice. They hovered, offered polite words, smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Madison's chest tightened. What is it this time? She thought. Her heart shifted uneasily. She couldn't watch anyone trade their father's love for any temporary act of manipulation or attention. Hours passed. She realized something worse. They were gone. They hadn't bought supplies. They hadn't even stayed to care for their father. They had abandoned both her and him. Madison tried calling them, but no one answered. Frustrated and desperate, she left the hospital and returned home. There she found them in their usual routines, laughing, cooking, pretending the day had been ordinary. Madison approached them, her voice calm but pointed. "Why didn't you show up at the hospital?" Her stepmother shrugged, unfazed. "We don't show up for events like that. You call our father's condition an event." Madison nodded tightly, barely holding back the anger rising inside her. Without another word, she turned quickly to gather what was needed, her mind focused on her father's care. She refused to waste a single moment on excuses or fake concern. Every step she took, every item she picked up, reminded her of the truth. Her family only acted when it suited them, only when it benefited them, and only when it wouldn't require real love or sacrifice. Madison's resolve hardened. She would care for her father. She would protect him. And she would do it without expecting help from those who had long abandoned their own humanity. Madison informed her stepmother, who had not shown up for 2 weeks since the incident and since they had called her. Her stepmother's response was cold, dismissive. "Every access to money is denied. The little available is only for my children's upkeep," she said flatly. Madison was speechless. She left her sight quietly, the weight of their indifference settling on her like a heavy cloak. Determined, she went straight to the hospital and made all necessary inquiries. She ensured her father's care was properly managed, checking everything meticulously. She had not been in school since the ordeal, and her phone rarely rang in her hand. Henry had been calling repeatedly, worried, but Madison barely had time to respond. When she finally answered his voice note, relief washed over him. Without hesitation, he rushed down to the hospital. The moment he arrived, he took her hand in his, pulling her into a tight, reassuring hug. "I missed you, Madison," he whispered. Exhausted beyond measure, Madison leaned back, relaxing as if she had finally found a shoulder to lean on, a safe place where nothing could harm her. Meanwhile, Henry's men were already working in secret, tracing every lead connected to Madison's kidnappers. Henry himself, with his innocent-looking eyes behind glasses, was a man of hidden depths. His appearance suggested vulnerability, but his mind and resources were calculated, precise, and lethal. Using maps and surveillance, he traced the perpetrators to Salvatore Creed's men, a young, dangerous mafia operating across both legal and illegal channels globally. He understood the threat they posed. He knew the risk, and yet he could not allow them to go free. Henry acted decisively. He captured the men, interrogated them, but they were trained not to talk. He didn't hesitate. The boys were eliminated cleanly, leaving no trace behind. An operation executed with ruthless precision. Madison, resting beside him, had no idea of the danger that had been neutralized on her behalf. All she felt was safety, warmth, and the unspoken promise that Henry would protect her at all costs. Henry paid for Madison's father's hospital bills and the surgery without hesitation. The procedure required Madison to donate a kidney to her father, and without thinking about whether he deserved it, she agreed. The surgery was successful. Slowly, her father's health stabilized, and after 3 months he was finally able to return home. The moment he walked through the door, his wife and their other children were shocked to see him alive. Their expressions were a mixture of disbelief, guilt, and surprise. Madison's stepmother quickly acted, putting on a carefully controlled performance. She offered lies and excuses, manipulating her husband's perception as she always did, attempting to regain control. Madison watched silently, confused. How could my father forgive so easily? She thought, her mind trying to reconcile the past with the present. But she moved on. Her father's love for her was now undeniable. For the first time in her life, she felt fully seen and cherished by him. One morning he woke Madison personally, preparing her for school. Even though she was technically an adult, he insisted on accompanying her to her school, a gesture that shocked Madison and every student who saw them. The students were astonished. Many had assumed she had no parents, or perhaps a distant guardian supported her education. After all, her school wasn't one for the children of the poor. That day, as Madison walked through the halls with her father by her side, the whispers began. They weren't whispers of admiration. They were whispers of calculation. The students were suddenly aware of her presence in a new way. They didn't like her, not truly. But life had shown them that you only respect, or pretend to respect, someone when there is benefit to be gained. Madison, however, held her head high, walking proudly beside her father, knowing that nothing they thought or said could touch the bond they now shared. For the first time, she understood the power of love, survival, and unwavering support, and she carried it like armor for the world to see. The automatic doors of Sunmart Grocery slid open, and Madison stepped out, arms full with 2 paper bags stuffed to the brim, bread, fruit, cereal, and a stubborn jar of pasta sauce wobbling dangerously near the edge. Then the wind arrived. Not a gentle breeze. Not a soft, playful whisper. No, this was a cinematic movie-style gust that whipped her hair across her face like the tail of a wild horse, relentless and chaotic. Madison froze. For a split second, she genuinely thought something alive had landed on her. "Ack, what is that?" "Get off," she shouted, swatting blindly with her elbow. Both hands were full, of course, and the attempt only made it worse. Her hair slapped across her mouth, her eyes, her forehead. She spun in a futile battle with the invisible storm. The jar of pasta sauce teetered. She gasped, jerking to save it, almost kneeling in her frantic attempt. And then he saw her. A sleek black car slid to a stop, halting perfectly because another vehicle blocked the lane. Behind him, 2 identical black SUVs followed. One in front, one behind. Salvatore Creed, 25, young yet impossibly dangerous, sat behind the tinted glass of the car. Sharp suit, strong jaw, a faint scar at his temple. A man whose smile had been rumored lost years ago. Till now. Salvatore watched her, the whirlwind of hair, groceries, and chaotic determination, from a distance, eyes narrowing then softening. He blinked, then tilted his head. Slowly, reluctantly, a smile tugged at the corner of his lips. A real one. His right-hand man glanced back, eyebrows raised. "Guard, boss. Are you smiling?" Salvatore didn't answer. He couldn't. Not yet. His gaze was fixed, captivated, drawn to the way she fought against the wind, the grocery bags, herself. The lane opened, the car started moving, but Salvatore remained locked on her. She yanked her hair free, only for it to smack the pasta sauce jar so hard that an apple shot upward like a tiny cannonball. It bounced off her shoulder, rolled dramatically under a parked car. Madison froze, defeated, panting, unsure whether to laugh or cry. And then Salvatore laughed. Quietly, unexpectedly. Surprised at himself, as if he hadn't felt anything resembling amusement in years. Something warm settled in his chest, a spark he hadn't allowed in a long time. Salvatore softly, interesting. Even as the car moved again, his eyes never left her. She had turned an ordinary grocery trip into a chaotic, cinematic moment. And for the first time in a long while, a stranger had made him feel something again. He didn't know her name. But he knew one thing, he would see her again. Her father was on his phone, too busy to notice much around him. Madison waited patiently by the car until he finally heard the knock. He reached over and unlocked the passenger door for her, opening it with a small, apologetic smile. Madison slid into the seat, closed the door, and looked at her father. For a moment they simply stared at each other, quietly, gently, 2 people who had been separated for far too long. Then they both smiled. Warm. Genuine. Happy to be together again. Her father felt the weight of his years of neglect. He reached over and touched her hand. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "For everything. I promise. I'll never let that happen again." Madison nodded, her heart swelling with something she had longed for her whole life. A father's real love. They drove home quietly, but the silence was full of peace, not tension. When they arrived, her father immediately called the rest of his children. Moments later, Daisy, Hazel, Demons, and even their mother walked in. Her father insisted the whole family sit together. For the first time in years, they all sat at one table for lunch. Madison looked around, overwhelmed with joy. Her heart felt bright, warm, full. But joy doesn't last long in a house built on jealousy. Daisy dropped her spoon, looked straight at Madison and muttered, "Now your father's favorite teen." Then she stood and walked away from the table. Madison tightened her jaw but said nothing. Julia, on the other hand, wasn't focused on family drama. Something else was bothering her. The two guys she had sent to kidnap Madison, her father's men, had disappeared. Not one. Not someone random. Exactly the two she sent. Vanished. No trace. No excuse. Julia couldn't understand. Why them? Why not any other person? She started watching Madison closely. At home, at school, during errands. But Madison acted normal. Quiet. Focused. No clue. No sign. Her suspicion turned sharply. There was only one connection Madison ever spoke to. Henry. Could it be him? Julia investigated Madison's father first, assuming maybe he had some hidden power. But the truth shocked her. He was just a common man. A truck driver. A hard-working father who still tried to provide despite everything. "Nah," she whispered to herself. "Not him." Her eyes shifted again. Back to Henry. Sweet Henry. Gentle Henry. Quiet Henry. The boy with innocent glasses and soft eyes. Too innocent. Suspiciously innocent. Deep down, Julia felt something dark. Something cold. Something dangerous. Henry wasn't who he looked like. Behind that gentle face, he was a leader. A real dealer. Someone powerful enough to erase two trained men without leaving a single trace. Julia's breath hitched. For the first time, she was scared. And Madison had no idea she was caught between two forces. Henry's hidden world. And Julia's unraveling rage. Julia's father, Carlos, had also sent out men, quiet, trained shadows, to find the two missing men. The same two men Julia had secretly sent to kidnap Madison. But every search came up empty. No tracks. No calls. No whispers in the underground. Not even a rumor. It unsettled him. Carlos had lived long enough in the criminal world to know one thing. When men disappear without a trace, someone powerful erased them. He kept this thought to himself, because it brought back memories he wished were buried. Carlos had once been the loyal driver to Salvatore's father, a man heavily involved in dangerous money, illegal deals, backdoor trades, risks that brought wealth and enemies in equal measure. Carlos had seen everything from behind the wheel, but nothing prepared him for the night everything changed. Salvatore, 10 years old. His older sister, 14. Their parents seated in the back seat, laughing softly about something. Carlos had stepped out for a quick errand, a simple one, a small one. And in the next minute, boom, the car exploded. A fireball on the quiet road. Salvatore and his sister were thrown out by the force of the blast. Barely alive. Their parents died instantly. Carlos reached them first. The one man left who loved them enough to run into the flames. Salvatore's sister fought for 6 days in the hospital. On the 7th day, she died, leaving Salvatore completely alone. It broke something inside him. Something that never healed. Carlos made a vow that day. Not as a driver, but as a father. He smuggled the boy out of the region, taking him to the Creed family estate in Washington. A hidden fortress with loyal employees still faithful to the fallen Creed bloodline. And there, Salvatore grew. Into strength. Into power. Into danger. Into a legend whispered through the underground. Carlos trained him, guided him, hardened him, yet softened him just enough so the darkness wouldn't swallow him whole. Salvatore never saw him as a driver again. He saw him as family. The day after Salvatore first saw Madison at the grocery store. Hair fighting the wind, groceries fighting gravity. He did something he had not done since he was a child. He prayed. Standing alone by his window, he whispered, "I hear stories about you. They say your works are everywhere. If I will ever ask you one thing in my life, let me see her again." He made me laugh. For the first time since I lost my sister. Just let me see her again. It was a quiet prayer. A vulnerable one. A secret even Carlos never knew. And God listened. 2 months passed. Salvatore walked into a small cafe for a business meeting. Then he froze. There she was. Madison. Sitting by the window, sunlight touching her hair softly. She looked simple, innocent, beautiful. and completely unaware of the darkness that surrounded his world. His heart hit his chest hard. This time she looked up. Their eyes met. The world paused. He walked toward her table. She didn't run. She didn't tense. She just stared at him, feeling something she couldn't explain. The conversation was soft, natural, warm. A small romantic moment neither of them planned. For the first time in Salvatore Creed's life, he fell in love. Not with her looks. Not with her innocence. But with her scars. The invisible ones. The seen ones. The ones she carried quietly like medals of survival. Carlos watched from a distance, shocked. Salvatore, smiling. Laughing under his breath. Glancing at his phone for no reason. Carlos had dreamed of this day. Julia. She had waited. Prepared. Studied. Followed every step Salvatore took. In her heart he was hers, even if he never once looked at her. She believed the day he chose a woman, it would be her. But now she saw the truth. Salvatore's eyes held softness for only one girl. Madison. And for Julia. That was unforgivable. Until a fateful day the story ends. Julia found out Madison and Salvatore Creed were dating. She tried to kill Madison. This time she would do anything to stop anyone who wanted to come between her and her crush. They didn't kidnap Julia this time to avoid any trace. They targeted her, pointed a gun at her and shot her twice on the chest. Unfortunately for her, she was rushed to the hospital and she was with her favorite necklace and it broke inside her body, creating a hole in her heart. She needed to undergo a surgery and also needed a kidney donor. The one left couldn't survive her. Henry would do anything for her and Salvatore Creed would go the extra mile or lay down his life. It's just 6 months since they knew each other. If Salvatore counted it, it would be 9 months. Henry knew the corporate would not stop and he wouldn't risk her life. He protected her with everything, secret guilds and watch over Julia. Salvatore Creed then tried to know why anyone would want to kill her, or if there was more to her than he thought. Madison's family all came. Her father was worried, overwhelmed, yet strangely acknowledged something deep inside him. "I knew Madison is the lucky one," he murmured as he looked at the rows of expensive cars parked outside because of her. "Look at this, even we, her step-siblings, are being treated with loyalty," Daisy emphasized, shaken. Henry finally uncovered the truth, that Julia had been involved in the attack. And Carlos, too, was searching for answers about why Madison had been gunned down. He questioned his daughter, asking things only someone with knowledge of the missing gunman would understand. Julia's hands were tied. Her father could detect lies instantly. She knew he already sensed the truth. He warned her quietly, "Some men are watching you seriously. Now that you're involved, you are not safe. Why would you do such a thing to Madison? Salvatore will act blind and cruel if he finds out. To him, anyone who comes near his happiness is an enemy." Before Julia could respond, a deafening sound tore through the mansion, loud enough to shake the walls. Men in full protective gear stormed in with advanced weapons. They made every guard in the mansion fall asleep with a special dose, then shot them again to keep them down longer. In minutes they took Julia. By the time Carlos opened his eyes, she was gone. He made one call, just one, and Salvatore Creed was instantly aware. Now he knew, Julia had killed his men, and she had also sent gunmen after Madison. Henry never left Madison's side even as he issued orders. Salvatore watched Madison from a distance, still unsure who Henry truly was to her. But he felt something, an urge to be more worthy of her love. Henry's closeness to her ran deeper than words could explain. Then Madison's father approached them, voice trembling. "She needs a kidney donor. She gave one to me a month ago. I wouldn't be alive without her." Henry didn't speak, he simply walked straight to the doctor ready to give his. But he wasn't a match. Salvatore Biro didn't hesitate. He stepped in immediately. It matched. Madison's father and Henry almost collapsed in relief. The surgery was completed successfully. Still, Madison remained unconscious for weeks. Everyone waited, prayed, and watched over her. Meanwhile, Henry dealt with Julia, who was in his custody. Salvatore could feel the hatred Henry carried behind his calm glasses. And Henry could see that Salvatore was trying to understand something deeper. "Julia will reap for doing this to Madison," Henry murmured coldly. Salvatore, on the other hand, felt sorry for Carlos and wasn't taking revenge as seriously. But the next morning, the decision was already made. Julia was flown by helicopter to a high hill. They threw her off. That was the price for choosing the wrong enemy. When reports reached Carlos and Salvatore, they rushed to the scene. She was already headed to the hospital. Her legs were gone. She was in a coma. At that same moment, Madison opened her eyes. The first thing she saw were two prestigious, powerful men waiting for her to wake. Then she saw her father, weak, pained but alive, rushing to sit beside her. Salvatore quickly took her hand. Seconds later, Henry, already in tears, leaned forward and kissed her forehead gently. She was safe. Julia, however, was about to face the consequences of her choices. Carlos would never forgive or forget what had been done to his daughter, even if she was still his daughter. Madison, finally awake, began to experience the best days of her life with the friends who stayed, through bitterness and restoration, and with her father's love returned at last. Madison stepped outside into the quiet evening, the sky painted gold and soft pink. She was healed, whole, and finally at peace. Salvatore was waiting for her by the garden path, hands in his pockets, eyes warm in a way only she ever got to see. Henry stood a few steps away, giving them space, a small smile on his face, letting her choose without a single word. Madison walked toward Salvatore. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. When she reached him, he gently cupped her face as if making sure she was real and safe. She leaned into his touch, her heart steady for the first time in months. He lowered his forehead to hers, breathing in the girl who changed his world. And in that quiet, blooming moment, she kissed him, soft, certain, a promise without words. Henry turned away with a peaceful breath, knowing she was exactly where she belonged. Madison's fingers intertwined with Salvatore's, their silhouettes framed by the sinking sun. Two hearts, rebuilt through fire, finally found their calm in each other.